If you died tomorrow, how much of the you people buried would be a person that actually existed, and how much would be a character you played to keep everyone else comfortable? It's a chilling thought. But for most of us, if we are being brutally honest, we aren't actually living our own lives. We are living a highly polished, well-rehearsed adaptation of ourselves. We are professional actors in a play we never auditioned for, playing a role simply called me. And we've been playing it so long we've forgotten it's a script. We spend our entire lives curating a version of ourselves that is digestible. We prune our personalities like bonsai trees, snipping off the branches that grow too wild, the parts that are too loud, too sensitive, or too difficult, until all that's left is a shape that fits perfectly in the corner of someone else's room. This curation is often so subtle that we mistake it for growth or maturity. We tell ourselves we are simply being polite or professional, but in reality, we are engaging in a slow act of self-erasure. We calculate our laughter, temper our enthusiasm, and swallow our dissent, all to ensure that we remain a seamless piece of the social furniture. We have become experts at reading the room before we even read our own hearts, making sure our shape doesn't bump into anyone else's expectations. Think about the last time you were at a dinner party or a high-stakes meeting, or even just sitting on the couch with your partner. Have you ever had that split-second glitch where you're watching yourself speak? You hear your own voice, you see your own hand gestures, you're saying the things people expect you to say, but inside, you feel like an observer. You're looking at your life from the outside and wondering, is this face, this voice, this career, this personality, is it actually mine? Or is it just who I learned to be to survive the people around me? In those moments of dissociation, the mask slips just enough for the cold air of reality to hit your skin. You realize that you've been operating on autopilot, deploying safe opinions and pre-packaged anecdotes like a software update. It is a terrifying realization because it suggests that the person your friends love, the person your boss relies on, and the person your partner sleeps next to might just be a very convincing holograph. Most of us treat our identity like a wardrobe. We pick out the competent professional outfit, the easygoing friend outfit, and the good partner outfit. But what happens when you've been wearing the costume so long that you can't remember what you look like underneath them? What happens when the performance becomes so seamless that you can't find the off switch? We begin to fear the nakedness of our own truth. We worry that if we took off the costumes, there would be nothing left but a void, or worse, something unacceptable that would drive everyone away. So, we double down on the wardrobe. We buy more costumes, refine the stitching, and spend our energy maintaining the threadbare fabric of a persona that was never meant to be worn 24 hours a day. We usually don't notice this as a dramatic crisis. It doesn't arrive with sirens and flashing lights. It shows up as a quiet, bone-deep heaviness. You're functional, you're responsible. You're doing what society calls a good life. You're checking the boxes, hitting the KPIs, and getting the likes. And yet, there's a flicker of distance. You feel like you're standing in your own kitchen, but you aren't fully inside your own body. You feel like you're moving forward, but you're on a treadmill, exhausted, sweating, and going absolutely nowhere. This existential friction creates a humming background noise of anxiety. You might have everything you ever wanted, the title, the family, the status. But because it was achieved by the character and not the person, the rewards feel hollow. You are receiving accolades for a performance you are increasingly tired of giving, leaving you feeling like a fraud who is paradoxically successful. This is what is called identity exhaustion. It is the internal fatigue that comes from maintaining a self that is slightly misaligned with your inner truth. It's not the kind of tiredness that sleep can fix. You can sleep for 10 hours, go on a vacation, and drink all the green juice in the world, and you will still wake up heavy, because you aren't tired from working too hard, you're tired from being too hard. You are exhausted from the constant subconscious work of self-monitoring. When you are misaligned, every interaction requires a conversion layer. You have to translate your true feelings into appropriate responses, which consumes an immense amount of psychic calories. It is the mental equivalent of holding your breath while trying to run a marathon. Eventually, your system begins to shut down, not from a lack of will, but from a lack of genuine oxygen. Think about the mental tax of your daily life. Every time you're in a room, you're running two operating systems. One system is just living. The other system is the manager. The manager is constantly asking, am I being too much? Am I being enough? Did that email sound too aggressive? Did I sound confident in that meeting? Is my vibe right? That manager never takes a day off. Even when you're alone, you're often performing for a ghost audience of people whose opinions you've internalized. You're staying on brand even when no one is looking. This hypervigilance keeps you in a state of low-grade fight or flight. You aren't just reacting to the world, you are predicting how the world will react to you and adjusting your sails before the wind even blows. The manager is a tyrant who demands perfection, convinced that if you slip up and show a glimpse of the uncurated self, the entire structure of your life will come crashing down. How did we get here? We have to understand that this performance didn't start because we were fake or superficial. It started because we were brilliant. When we were children, we were social detectives. We looked at the world around us and cracked the code of belonging. We learned through the tone of a parent's voice, the look on a teacher's face, and the silence of a peer group what parts of us were acceptable and what parts were inconvenient. We were tiny anthropologists studying the tribal customs of our households. We noticed that when we were quiet, we were praised for being mature. When we were loud, we were scolded for being disruptive. We didn't choose our personas out of vanity. We chose them out of a biological necessity to be nurtured and kept safe. Our masks were our first suits of armor. Maybe you learned that being high-achieving was the only way to get noticed by a distracted parent, so you became the overachiever. Maybe you learned that your anger made people pull away, so you became the calm one. Maybe you learned that having needs made you a burden, so you became hyper-independent, the person who handles everything alone and never asks for help. These weren't lies, they were intelligent adaptations. They were survival strategies that helped you get love, safety, and stability. Over time, these strategies hardened into a personality. The overachiever stopped being something you did and became who you were. The calm one lost the ability to even feel their own anger because it was too dangerous to acknowledge. We became so good at these roles that we eventually convinced ourselves they were the only parts of us that existed, burying the rest under layers of useful behavior. But here is the hidden cost of adaptation. You can spend so long becoming what works that you completely forget what's true. You build a life around what was rewarded, not what was felt. And then you reach adulthood, and you've built a beautiful, sturdy cage out of all those rewards. You have the job, the house, the reputation, the stable personality, and you're waiting for the feeling that was supposed to come with it. You're waiting for peace, the arrival, the sense of, I made it. The tragedy is that the cage is gilded. From the outside, it looks like a kingdom, but inside, there is a mounting sense of claustrophobia. You realize that you have optimized your life for a person you no longer recognize, and the very things you worked so hard to achieve now feel like bars, keeping you away from your own vitality. But instead of peace, you feel a strange grief. You feel like you're living someone else's life. You look at your achievements and they feel like props in a play. This is what we call directionless adulthood. It's the feeling of being a highly successful stranger to yourself. You might tell yourself you're just being ungrateful. You might tell yourself to stop overthinking. But the feeling doesn't go away because it's not a mood problem, it's an identity problem. This grief is actually the mourning of the self that was never allowed to grow. It is the realization that while you were busy being effective, you forgot to be alive. You are grieving the lost decades where you chose the safe script over the honest impulse, and now you are left with the bill for a life you only partially attended. To move through this, we need to understand a framework created by the psychologist Carl Jung. He called the process of coming home to yourself individuation. Jung recognized that most people spend the first half of their lives building a container, a career, a family, a social standing. But the second half of life is meant for the contents of that container. If you never look inside, you spend your final years guarding an empty box. Individuation is the bridge between who the world told you to be and who you were actually born to be. Now, don't let the word intimidate you. Individuation isn't about becoming individualistic or selfish. It's about becoming whole. Jung suggested that in the first half of our lives, we focus on building our persona, that social mask we talk through. We need it to function. But as we grow, we realize that the mask has grown so large it's smothering the rest of us. The persona is a tool, but we have mistaken it for the workman. We have become so identified with our social utility, our roles as parents, employees, or good citizens, that we have neglected the vast inner landscape that exists behind those roles. Individuation is the process of reclaiming the territory that the mask has colonized. Jung believed that everything about you that didn't fit into your main character script was shoved into the shadow. Your shadow isn't a dark, evil place. It's just the basement of your personality. It's where you put your buried creativity, your dangerous honesty, your raw emotions, and your unconventional desires. Individuation is simply the process of going into that basement, picking up those discarded pieces and saying, "You belong to me too." It's the journey from being a fragment to being a whole. In that basement, you might find the artist you abandoned for a business degree or the fierce boundary setter you traded for likability. These pieces haven't disappeared, they've just been waiting in the dark, fermenting. When we finally integrate them, we don't become bad people. We become complete people who are no longer divided against themselves. This is where the real struggle of modern life sits. We live in a world that only wants our persona. It wants our LinkedIn profile, our Instagram feed, our professional efficiency. It doesn't want our shadow. But your shadow is where your power is. It's where your vitality lives. When you suppress the shadow, you don't just lose your darkness, you lose your light. You lose your ability to feel deep joy, deep curiosity, and deep connection. When we reject our shadow, we become thin. We lack presence and gravity because we are only presenting the parts of ourselves that have been pre-approved by the committee of public opinion. Real charisma and real influence don't come from a polished persona. They come from the raw, unedited energy of a person who is no longer hiding from themselves. Think about how this manifests in your current life. Have you ever noticed that you can't feel truly happy even when you should? It's because the same gatekeeper in your mind that blocks your pain also blocks your joy. You can't selectively numb yourself. If you've spent 20 years numbing your anger so you could be a team player, you have also unknowingly numbed your passion. If you've spent your adulthood hiding your vulnerability so you could be strong, you have also hidden your capacity for intimacy. You've become a flat, two-dimensional version of a human being. This emotional flattening is why so many successful people feel bored. They have sterilized their inner lives to the point where nothing can grow, neither the weeds of sorrow nor the flowers of ecstasy. They are living in a climate-controlled psychic environment where the temperature is always fine, but nothing ever feels truly electric. Individuation is the act of reclaiming that third dimension. It is the refusal to keep living as a hollowed-out version of yourself, but it requires a specific kind of courage, the courage to be disliked. Because the truth is, when you stop performing, the people who only loved your performance are going to be disappointed. They liked the agreeable you. They liked the always fine you. When you start showing up as the real you, you become unpredictable, you become inconvenient, and that is exactly where your freedom begins. This transition often causes a restructuring of your social circle. Some people will be threatened by your new boundaries or your raw honesty. They will try to shame you back into your role, but the people who truly matter will be drawn to your authenticity like a moth to a flame, because your permission to be yourself implicitly gives them permission to do the same. So, what does the process of unmasking actually look like in a world that demands you keep it on? It looks like a series of small, terrifying rebellions. It doesn't require quitting your job and moving to a cave. It happens in the grocery store when you stop smiling at people you don't like. It happens in the boardroom when you say, "I disagree," instead of nodding along. It's the quiet decision to stop apologizing for taking up space or for having an opinion that doesn't fit the consensus. It starts with noticing the friction. You know that feeling when you're about to say something that isn't quite true, but it's what the other person wants to hear. Your throat tightens. Your heart rate speeds up. Your body is literally trying to tell you that you are about to abandon yourself. Most of us have been ignoring that physical signal for years. Individuation starts when you finally stop and listen to it. That physical tightness is your integrity screaming. It is your soul's way of sounding an alarm that you are about to commit a micro-act of self-betrayal. When you start honoring that signal, you might find that you speak less, but when you do speak, your words have a weight and a resonance that they never had before. It's about asking different questions, not "what should I do to be successful?" but "what is actually true for me at this moment?" Not "how do I look at them?" but "how do I feel about myself?" This shift in inquiry moves the center of gravity from the outside world to your inner world. You stop being a planet orbiting other people's suns and start becoming your own source of light. You begin to realize that success is meaningless if it requires you to be an absentee landlord of your own soul. When you start this process, it feels like grief. You have to mourn the person you spent 30 years pretending to be. You have to mourn the version of you that everyone else liked because you were so easy and agreeable. You might realize you've outgrown certain relationships that were only held together by your performance. You might realize your ambition was actually just a fear of being ordinary. This mourning period is necessary. You are essentially dismantling a monument you spent your whole life building. It's painful to look at the wreckage of a perfect persona, but you have to clear the site before you can build something that can actually house the real you. But on the other side of that grief is something incredible: presence. Presence is what happens when you stop running from yourself. It's when you can sit in a room alone and not feel like you need to escape into your phone. It's when you make a choice, not because it's on brand, but because your body feels a sense of relief when you make it. When you have presence, you no longer need to seek attention or validation. You are simply there. You become solid. You find that you can handle the storms of life not because you have a perfect mask, but because you have a deep, unshakable root system that goes down into the truth of who you are. We often talk about finding ourselves, but that's the wrong metaphor. You aren't a hidden treasure buried on a remote island. You are right here. You've just been buried under layers of other people's opinions. You don't need to go anywhere to find yourself. You need to stop going. You need to stop moving, stop fixing, stop optimizing, and stop performing long enough for the dust to settle. It is an act of subtraction, not addition. You don't need to learn new skills to be authentic. You need to unlearn the habits of performance. You need to let the extra parts of you, the parts you added to please your mother, your boss, or your spouse, fall away until the core remains. In modern life, we use busyness as a defense mechanism against our own authenticity. If we keep our schedules full, we don't have to face the emptiness inside. If we keep leveling up our careers, we don't have to ask if we even like the game we're playing. But identity exhaustion eventually catches up to everyone. You can outrun your truth for a long time, but you can't outrun it forever. Eventually, the body breaks, the relationship fails, or the burnout becomes so severe that the mask simply falls off. We treat burnout like a productivity problem, but it's almost always an identity problem. It is the soul's way of going on strike because it is tired of being used as a battery for a life it didn't choose. If you are burning out, it's not because you're doing too much, it's because you're doing too much of what isn't yours. Why wait for a crisis? You can choose to begin this journey now. And the first step is the most honest thing you can do. Admit that you are tired. Not just long day tired, but long life tired. Admit that you are playing a part. There is a profound power in simply naming the exhaustion. When you say, "I am tired of pretending," the manager loses its grip. You stop trying to fix the tiredness with a vacation and start addressing it with a revolution. You give yourself permission to stop holding up the sky for everyone else. Real authenticity isn't loud. It isn't a slogan. Real authenticity is a quiet clarity. It's the ability to say, "This isn't for me anymore," without feeling the need to apologize for it. It's the moment your nervous system finally relaxes because you've stopped betraying yourself to maintain an image. It feels like a long exhale. It's the sensation of finally putting down a heavy suitcase you didn't even realize you were carrying. You realize that you don't have to work to be yourself. You only have to work to be someone else. Being yourself is actually the path of least resistance. Once you get past the fear of the audience, you start to reclaim your energy. Think about how much energy you've wasted managing perception, managing your story, managing your face. When you stop the performance, that energy comes back to you. You aren't finding yourself, you're recovering yourself. You are rebuilding trust with your own instincts. You are teaching your body that it is safe to be seen. Imagine what you could do with all that redirected power. Instead of using it to maintain a facade, you use it to create, to connect, and to change. You become more efficient because you are no longer fighting an internal war. Your yes becomes a real yes, and your no becomes a real no. A lot of people think that being authentic means being selfish. It's the opposite. Individuation makes you more stable and more compassionate, because when you aren't living from a place of suppression and resentment, you have more room for other people. You aren't looking to them to validate your mask anymore, so you can actually see them for who they are. You become a person who can hold space for others because you finally learn to hold space for yourself. A persona-driven person is always looking for a mirror in others. They need you to tell them they are doing a good job so they can feel okay. But an individuated person is a window. They don't need you to reflect them. They can simply see you, and in doing so, they become the most reliable friends, partners, and leaders. As you move through this coming week, I want you to pay attention to the 3 p.m. slump, not the one caused by caffeine, but the one caused by the soul. Notice the moment in your day where you feel the most fake. Is it in a specific meeting? Is it when you're talking to a certain friend? Is it when you're posting on social media? Don't judge it, just look at it. That feeling of fakeness is actually a gift. It is your true self tapping you on the shoulder, reminding you that it's still there, waiting to be let in. Don't try to fix the fakeness immediately. Just sit with the discomfort. Let it be a compass. If a certain situation makes you feel like an actor, it's a sign that your real self isn't invited to that part of your life. Ask yourself why. What am I afraid would happen if I showed up as I actually am? Every time you choose a moment of honesty over a moment of performance, you are reclaiming a piece of your soul. Every time you say, "I don't know," when you're expected to have the answer, or "I'm not okay" when you're expected to be fine, you are performing an act of self-rescue. You are telling your psyche, "I see you. You are more important than the audience." These are the small, terrifying rebellions that build a real life. They are the brick and mortar of your new foundation. Each honest word is a vote for your own existence. Each moment of vulnerability is a bridge back to the person you were before the world got its hands on you. So, let me ask you again, as you think about your life right now, your job, your relationships, the way you speak, the way you spend your time, are you actually yourself, or are you just who you learned to be? This is the most important audit you will ever conduct. Look at your calendar, your bank statement, and your internal dialogue. Do they belong to the adaptation or the human? If you were to strip away the expectations of your parents, your peers, and your industry, what would be left standing? This isn't a judgment, it's an invitation to come home. Your true self isn't missing, it isn't lost in some distant past. It's just been quiet, waiting under the noise of everyone else's expectations. It's been waiting for you to realize that you don't need to be correct to be worthy. We have been taught that worthiness is a performance, something we earn through achievement and compliance. But true worthiness is inherent. You don't have to audition for your own life. You are already cast in the lead role. You just have to stop trying to play the supporting characters in everyone else's story. The difference between who you learned to be and who you truly are is where your meaning lives. It's where your peace lives. Not the peace of having a perfect life, but the peace of no longer being at war with yourself. It is the peace of knowing that even if the whole world turns away, you are still standing on your own side. When you are on your own side, the external world loses its power to shatter you. You can handle rejection, failure, and criticism because your sense of self isn't tied to the likes of the audience. You are grounded in a reality that no one else created and therefore no one else can take away. Adulthood isn't about perfecting the mask, it's about having the courage to take it off and realize that the person underneath was enough all along. It's time to stop living for the audience and start living for the soul. It's time to stop surviving as an adaptation and start existing as a human being. The mask was a great survival tool, but it is a terrible living environment. It is cramped, it is dark, and it is lonely. Taking it off might feel like stepping out into a storm, but at least the rain is real, at least the wind is actually touching your face. You have spent your whole life being a version of yourself that everyone else can handle. You've been the good child, the productive employee, the reliable friend. And while those are fine things to be, they are not all you are. You are also the parts that don't make sense. You are the parts that are inconvenient. You are the parts that have been waiting in the dark for decades, hoping you'd finally turn the light on. You are the secret dreams you never told anyone because they were unrealistic. You are the strange humor you hide because it's weird. You are the deep ancestral longing for something more than a 401k and a nice lawn. These messy parts are the most beautiful things about you. For the rest of your life, try being the version of yourself that you can live with. Not the one that earns the most points, but the one that allows you to breathe. Because at the end of the day, you are the only person who has to live inside your head. You are the only person who has to feel your own heartbeat. Make sure that the person living your life is actually you. We worry so much about being useful to others that we forget to be hospitable to ourselves. Build a home within yourself that you actually want to live in. Decorate it with your own truths, your own passions, and your own weirdness. Don't wait for permission. The audience isn't going to give it to you. The world wants you to stay in your role because it makes their lives easier. But your life isn't meant to make everyone else's life easy. It's meant to be lived. The people who profit from your performance will be the first to complain when you stop. Ignore them. Their comfort is not worth your soul. You are not a commodity to be managed. You are a mystery to be explored. So step off the stage, drop the script, silence the manager, and just for a moment, let yourself be real. Let yourself be messy. Let yourself be whole. Because the moment you stop performing is the moment your real life finally begins. The stage lights are blinding, but the world outside the theatre is vast and beautiful. It is waiting for you to walk out of the exit door and into the light of the sun. Don't look back at the empty seats. Just walk.